Speaking of lawmakers, Senator Win Gatchalian is one of those pushing for a stricter regulation of online gambling. And to discuss his position, we have Senator Win joining us today via Zoom. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Senator. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning to our televiewers.
Okay, Senator Win, alam po natin na talagang masigabo ang diskusyon dito sa pagdating sa online gambling, and you are one of the lawmakers calling for stricter measures instead of a total ban. Have you changed your mind on this amid the debates?
Well, we went through a thorough analysis and research, Gretchen, before we took the path of stricter regulation. Indeed, there are two ways of addressing this online gambling. One is to total ban it. Two is to enforce strict regulations through law. Right now, we have regulations. I heard Attorney Tonet mentioned about PAGCOR. There are regulations right now, but obviously the regulations are not working. Pumapalpaking regulations. It's not being enforced strictly. Penalties are not being imposed. Therefore, these online gambling platforms are not following the rules or following the regulations. So what we went with is stricter regulations, because when we studied online gambling in other jurisdictions, it's very hard to block websites because they go underground. And when you have total ban of e-gaming or e-gambling in the country, our concern is they might go underground, and it's more difficult to regulate them if they go underground. In fact, they fly under the radar, and regulation will not be imposed anymore. And it will be a cat and mouse game from then on. It will be very difficult for us to monitor how many are offering gambling platforms, how many are going into gambling. It becomes a very unwieldy situation.
An addictive cycle.
Correct. So it's better for these companies, if they don't want to be imposed penalties or even put in jail in our bill, they would come out in the open and make themselves or allow themselves to be regulated, meaning they go legal. But of course, when you go legal, there are certain rules that you have to follow. And but the point there is that they're now within the radar of the government, as opposed to going underground. It's very difficult if you follow other gambling other gambling forms. For example, hueteng. When we tried to ban hueteng, it just went underground. And what happened is it's still operating. It proliferated in some areas, and it became unwieldy. And corruption actually was the next event, because enforcers were being corrupted so that they will close their eyes and allow hueteng to flourish. So we don't want that to happen with online gambling.
Senator, kung matatandaan po natin yung usapan ng online gambling, nagsimula po yan dahil pagkatapos nung POGO ban, yung iba sinasabi nagpunta dito sa online gambling or sa IGLs. They shifted markets from serving offshore gamblers. Now, it is the Filipinos that are the ones betting their money into this. Kumbaga parang tayo naman bigla yung naapektuhan at dito napunta. Senator Zubiri says that taxing them would not be the answer for the social ills that it will cause our kababayans, at kumikita lang tayo sa panggigipit at paghihirap ng ating mga mamamayan. In short, he's calling out for the government not to profit off moral decay. What would you say to that?
Well, the first issue about POGOs, that's hindi totoo yan, that POGOs went into online gambling. That's there's no, at least based on our information, there's no information that POGOs went to online or domestic online gambling. POGOs are totally different. Their business model is totally different from domestic online gambling. We have to differentiate yung domestic online gambling and POGOs, because POGOs get their bets outside of the Philippines. And based on our investigation last time, mostly are owned by foreign individuals or foreign criminal syndicates in this matter. Kaya naging kaya na-ban ang Pogo because they were being operated by criminal syndicates, not businessmen, but criminal syndicates. And they morphed into scamming activities. Now, POGOs or maraming names. So may POGO, may e-game, may online gambling. All of these are owned by domestic companies and local individuals. Hence, they have to be under the regulation of PAGCOR. And these companies, some of them are even publicly listed. So in other words, they are open for public investment. So, but the problem here is regulation. PAGCOR is not effectively regulating these online gambling platforms. And at the same time, these online gambling platforms are not also regulating themselves. Because part of regulation is self-regulation, meaning you impose certain moral standards to your operation so that society will be ensured that morality is maintained at all times. But hindi ganun nangyayari. In fact, tinay namin to open an account in one of the platforms. It just asks you, are you above 18 years old? And when you press yes, kaagad you can gamble as low as with 20 pesos. So that's not self-regulation. That's not regulation at all. So in our bill, we impose very strict regulation. They have to use technology to determine whether the account opener is below 18 or above 18. They will have to cross-check the identification of that individual and so on. So that's regulation. That's what we want, to impose strict regulation.
Of course, alam po natin no, na maraming anggulo dito sa stronger regulation. Meron po, yun nga po yung nabanggit po ninyo when it comes to authentication of their identity. But sa kabuuan po, ano po yung mga proposal dun po sa bill po ninyo to have a stricter regulation?
The basic components, Gretchen, number one, we will increase the age from 18 to 21. Because at 21 years old, between 18 to 21, you're still in college. So meaning, most likely, you're still getting allowance from your parents. And we don't want the allowance to go into online gambling. Number two, we will put a floor price or a floor bet. 10,000 is the floor, so you cannot go below 10,000 when you put bets. We will also decouple the use of e-wallets to online gambling. We will also prohibit celebrities to advertise, as well as advertising near schools, near churches, near public buildings. So stricter regulation. This is marami yun, no? But these are the most important features of the bill.
Pag pumupunta po kasi tayo sa sa EDSA, I mean kaliwat kanan po doon yung mga advertising at billboard no ng mga online gambling platforms, and you'd wonder, I mean where is government regulation in that? I mean, pag meron po tayo nabasa din online na sinasabi, pagdating naman sa mga ads ng mga produkto, napakahirap to get that through the Ad and Standards Council. But as of today, what regulations exist when it comes to advertising of these online gambling platforms? Do you also support stronger regulation on that?
Yes, definitely. In fact, that's built in our proposal. So by law, celebrities will not be allowed to promote this online gambling. The reason for that is, for example, we see a lot of sports personalities. These sports personalities are idols of the youth, no? Idols of senior high school students, idol of young people, and we don't want the young people to be enticed to go into online gambling. That's number one. And in the law, it's also built in. As long as children or the youth is being attracted by this ad, or as long as there are children using that facility or applying that route, then you cannot advertise. We cannot advertise to the youth because the youth are the most susceptible to online gambling. Now, going back, Gretchen, you mentioned earlier about banning. The reason why we chose the path of stricter regulation is because these gaming sites will go underground if we totally ban them. And we studied in other jurisdiction, and that's what happened. So when they go underground, or when they go under the regulation of PAGCOR, it's more difficult to catch them. It's more difficult to close them down because they can close them down now, and then they'll open with another website tomorrow using the same, the same machinery, the same hardware, and it's going to be like that all the time. So instead of these people going underground, give them a venue to go legal, but be under the strict regulation of government.
When it comes to the taxation of these online gambling platforms, do you think the government is getting enough so far? Because I did a little bit of reading on that. It seems that these companies only pay 5% franchise tax on gross revenues, 1.5% tax for social responsibility programs, pero wala silang corporate income tax or VAT. Tama po ba yun?
Yeah, because it's already subsumed under the franchise tax and the regulatory fees. The online gambling now is the biggest earner of PAGCOR. Out of the 90 billion, almost 100 billion peso earnings of PAGCOR, 50 billion goes to online gaming. It surpassed the brick and mortar casinos. When I say brick and mortar, these are the ones you see in Ross Boulevard, for example, Soler, City of Dreams. These companies built facilities, rooms, convention halls, and a casino. There are hard investments to that. But now, with online gambling, they have already surpassed these brick and mortar casinos. The gross gaming revenue of this online gambling casino is as high as 150 billion pesos to date. No? It's more than half of PAGCOR's gross gaming revenue, and growing so fast. We looked at the numbers in the last 5 years. The average growth rate of this online gambling is about 46%. No? So in a uncertain economy right now, 46% is really a miraculous growth in terms of business. No, so that's why you see a lot of these publicly listed companies share price going off the roof, because the growth of these businesses are tremendous, but at the expense of our society. With weak regulations, you have the youth, high school students going into these gambling platforms. In fact, what prompted me to look deeper into this are the schools. Being the chairman of the Basic Education Committee, a lot of these principals, school owners sought my attention, and we analyzed the situation. That's why we came up with this stricter regulation.
Are you going to propose for revised taxation, and by how much?
There is room. With the earnings that we are seeing right now, imagine 50 billion pesos out of the 100 billion peso earnings of PAGCOR, we feel that there is room to impose taxes. Maybe slightly higher, I think. We have to study the combination, because part of it goes to BIR. I think that part can be increased substantially. The regulatory fees can also be increased substantially. In our proposal, actually, some of the fees will go to recovery or gambling recovery programs. When this came out in social media, a lot of people reach out to me, and the problems with people who want to recover from gambling is it's very expensive to go into these programs. So we earmark a portion of the earnings of PAGCORs to gambling recovery programs, not only for e-gambling but for all forms of gambling.
Actually, mahaba-haba pa po yung usapan na pagdating dito sa online gambling. But we don't have a lot of time today. But we will wait for that discussion over in the Senate. In the meantime, maraming salamat po, Senator Win Gatchalian, for weighing in on with us in this online gambling debate.
Thank you, Gretchen. Maraming salamat.